and second podcast with Don. Stage 1 is the best podcast ever, I think, that's never gone to air. You missed out on that one, but you're joined by me, Cyrus Monk, and Aidan Burgess. We've got a better connection today, so Aidan, you can introduce yourself straight away.
Yeah, way better connection. So Cyrus and I are both in the backwaters of China at the moment, and we have been struggling with internet connection, specifically me lately, but my handler here for the race at Shanghai gave me one of his SIM cards, and the connection is fantastic now. So yeah, good to go. Some of you might be familiar with my work on Instagram. I am an idiot that has somehow managed to get on a podcast with Cyrus Monk, which is pretty cool. So yeah, man, happy to be here. And let's jump straight into stage 2. How good?
Stage 2. Yeah, so just finished there as we were watching. So firstly, you got delayed due to bad weather from the start, traffic jams for teams getting to the start. No good for us because it means it's a little bit later on the podcast here in China, but no good for the riders either. And then 4-man break pretty early on. Absolutely horrendous weather at the start. So I think riders were pretty happy to calm down behind them. That breakaway contested the first KOM, which was won by Andreas Leknesund, who I don't think will be in the KOM jersey now because the final one was won by Tadej Pogacar. So I have a feeling he might actually be wearing the KOM jersey now.
He is.
Just going to check that as I go through. But
on SBS, so.
Yeah, he is.
Yep.
All right. He is wearing it. So that's an interesting move by him to have to do all those press conferences from now on. But yeah, after the break went pretty calm behind for a while before we just started seeing a bit more anxiety, quite a few crashes in the bunch, a really hotly contested intermediate sprint behind the breakaway, which Milan just pit Malia and Biniam Gamay, but there's a bit of talk going on after, which we'll get to. Then the real racing really kicked off 30 Ks to go, a series of punchy climbs from there until the finish. We saw Wellens jump on the front, Tim Wellens for UAE set a really high pace, which split the peloton down to about 20 riders, actually. It did come back together again after that, before 10 Ks to go. I think it was Jake Stewart from Groupama, I'm fairly sure, was the one that launched the actual attack, setting up, I think, who we thought was a teammate on his wheel, which actually there was no one from his team left at that point. And then we saw Jorgensen take over. It really was then from there to the finish, just attack after attack. Kevin Vauquelin was really the main player there, but we actually saw even Jonas Vingegaard throw in a few punches towards the end. Up the final climb, we saw Mathieu van der Poel do what he does best, basically do his own lead out, take the win from the two really well-renowned sprinters in the bunch, Tadej Pogacar and Jonas Vingegaard in second and third. So really exciting stage there. Aidan, first thoughts. What do you think?
For starters, can we just talk about Mathieu van der Poel going up climbs in a select group that features Jonas Vingegaard, Tadej Pogacar, Remco Evenepoel, and MVDP? I think there were 6 people in that group, all of them pure climbers or GC, and then MVDP. What's he eating, and how do I get some?
Yeah, he was suffering at one point. I hate having to watch him when he has the closed mouth on the climbs. It just cracks me because I'm always someone that's catching flies as soon as I get out the door, basically. But he was suffering on that one, I think, with 4K to go at the top, and even the one with 10K to go. But yeah, he's got a pretty good poker face still. Came back, and then really cool stage, actually, to have someone like him racing against the two guys that are probably going to fill the top 2 steps of the podium in Paris, going for the stage win. Obviously, they did it a few weeks ago in the Dauphiné as well, but it is pretty clear that those guys are pretty good bike riders.
Yeah. So I've got a couple of takeaways. I think whenever Visma chucks you the aero helmet, the aero lid, I would start coming down with a cold or something. Poor Campenarts, he's been given that aero lid, and
that's by choice for sure.
Yeah, but it's just a signal that you're going to be on the front doing the duties. The guy's just been putting in shifts, and I would be pushing holes in my aero helmet or something to try and skip that job. That looks like a tough job. But aside from that, my main takeaway from today, I know it's early, but is it too soon to say that Jonas Vingegaard looks hot?
I was thinking the same, but I was also thinking, why is he flopping it out this early in the race? Like, he's clearly packing heat, but there's no need to get it out at this point. The show hasn't actually started yet, and he's in danger of blowing his load before she even touches it at this point. I think he's got to be careful that he doesn't show too much, but clearly he is feeling absolutely amazing.
It is chalk and cheese to to be fair, we haven't seen any major climbs at all yet, but just the confidence that he's taking into this. I sort of, after watching him in the Dauphiné, I thought a lot of what he was talking about in the press conferences in the lead up to this were a bit of bluster. And, you're hearing about him putting on 1 kilogram of extra muscle and all this stuff. And you think, is it going to make a difference when Poggy just curb stomps everyone? But I don't know. I'm starting to believe.
Yeah, like Poggy wasn't looking that comfortable bridging across to a few of those. Vingegaard was pretty smart with when he did those two. They were real flyers. The main one where he got the gap, Poggy was actually lucky. Remco was onto it straight away, and Remco again, absolutely no teammates helping him there. So you saw Jonas and Poggy had great support the whole time. The only time they were really having to do much was when it was one or the other. Whereas Remco's just having to close every single gap by himself and get his welding helmet on.
There was a point where Narvaez had dropped and Poggy was by himself, and it did look, Narvaez was able to pull it back, but there was a point where Visma did have Poggy isolated. Again, Poggy was isolated in the Dauphiné and he still managed to win stages. So, but yeah, there are cracks in this UAE team's armour as well, I think.
Yeah, I think Wellens probably lit it up. He lit it up from that 30K to go point, and then we didn't see him again. And I think he did come back a few times, but he wasn't able to have the influence again. So that was, I don't know if, I'm sure it was the plan for him to do that, and it was effective, but I don't know if that was the best move, using him that early. But then someone I just thought about as we came to air, but I didn't see, Van Aert should be the perfect kind of final for him. When you see Van der Poel, you usually see him there as well. So don't know if he was on a bad day or just purely not in position for those climbs, which is pretty rare for him not to be in good position. So that was a surprise that he wasn't there.
He did a smoke bomb on the Côte d'Or Pichot, or however you pronounce it. He was on the front coming up there, and he was looking real good. And then all of a sudden, he was gone, like he'd been beamed up by aliens or something. And I didn't see him for the rest of the race, but he was looking good there. I don't know whether he burned all his biscuits trying to get up that climb and put them in a good position. And maybe that was the plan, that he just went flat out in that section. But he completely phantomed after that.
Yeah, and it's a tricky one because you sort of just go, should he have saved a bit more? But the thing I'm liking is just seeing these teams just throwing everything at it on stage 2. And we know that it's pretty back-ended. Like there's no need for him to be going this crazy. There's going to be plenty of opportunities to do stuff later in the tour, but it's cool for us watching that these teams are ready to just throw all the hay straight at it at the moment.
Well, I'm glad that they were, because we had a bit of a team going out to dinner, and I had the phone up while we were out to dinner. It was a bit antisocial, but we're doing this podcast. That's the sacrifices we make for the podcast. But I tell you what, I don't think I missed much in the stage. I came back at about 40 Ks to go, and I reckon I could have just read the Cliff Notes version of the stage up until then. It was breakaway, given 2 minutes 30, tight leash, nothing going on, bit of rain, couple of stacks, nothing major. And then, it really lit up. So I think they really saved this stage in that last 40 or 30 Ks, really.
Yeah, definitely. And like one of our segments that we want to have on, and what we want to talk about is something that you might have missed at home. You didn't actually miss that much at home. The only thing is just what you might have missed, and it's coming up in Instagram Reels now, I'm already seeing, is the riders just getting pushed off the side of the road. And because it was raining all night and all morning, the side of the road is super soft there. So as soon as your wheels are off the road, you're just sinking, just basically going straight over the bars. So there's no way to save it. Whereas other days you see riders use the side of the road to move up. I think another part of it is when it's that wet, it's the hardest part about racing in the rain. Like, they've got really good clothes now. The tires are fine for the most part. We did see a few riders slide out, so the roads were slippery. But the hardest part for me anyway is being able to see. So you've got the choice of either wearing glasses and then having constantly to wipe your glasses because you got rain stuck on them, and then just spray just coming into your face, or you take your glasses off and then you got spray coming into your eyes, and after a while you just can't see out of your eyes because you've got that much crap in them. So for a lot of riders, it's just them getting too close to the side of the road. The road's either soft on the side and coming in, or you just get these tiny bits of road furniture, these little gutters or full traffic dividers that people are just hitting at some point, or there's these squeezes where riders are getting pushed off the road. So we just saw for 100K there, it was pretty calm, apart from just the occasional rider just being ejected from the race.
Yeah, and it's not just it's not just the rain in those pelotons either. I'd imagine it's a lot of spray coming up from the wheels behind you. It would just be really difficult to get clear vision in those kind of conditions. I wouldn't want to do it. It was a day. Yeah. There are some days I wish I was a pro cyclist, and then I see days like this and I think it ain't for me.
Yeah. Now, what do you reckon the people at home might have missed then that you were watching?
Yeah, look, I don't think it's something that people missed so much. And I just think in regards to, we'll bring this up again in a little bit, but Roglic just seemed to disappear and come back and disappear and come back. And I think something that people really missed, and again, it sort of leads into the next section, something that is often kind of missed there is, we talk about these big dudes, but Roglic getting brought back, that's not done because Roglic does it. That's his domestiques. And I couldn't tell you who the people were that pulled him back. So I missed it at home. But the team around him must be working pretty hard to try and keep him protected, because Roglic seems to be doing whatever he can to drop out of this race. Short of stacking, which is unusual. I think we were talking at dinner, there's been 4 or now about 8 crashes in this Tour de France, and Roglic has avoided every single one of them, which must be a personal record for the bloke. But yeah,
most times you'd expect him to be gone by now. But no, I think I'm just looking down at the Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe sheet here. Lipovic was there, but I can't imagine he's the one towing Roglic back each time. But I reckon it was Gianni Moscon, because it was a pretty big rider bringing him back each time. And Moscon loves those kind of conditions. Like, he almost won Roubaix in that filthy wet one until he punctured at the end. But he loves that kind of racing, those kind of roads. So having someone like him, I think, saved Roglic's bacon for sure today, because there's no other way he was making bunch time.
Yeah, and that is super concerning moving forward for Red Bull. And again, you kind of have to wonder, at what point do they say we're going in on Lipovic, because Roglic just isn't looking like they have to make the call sometime soon, because they're going to have a decision about which rider to protect. And I don't know if you've seen the Tour de France Unchained Season 3, and I don't know how much to make of that, because I know they hammered up for the Netflix money. But Roglic was saying that he left Visma. Yeah, left Visma for Red Bull because Jonas was the focus. And now it's looking like at Red Bull, I can't see a situation where if Roglic keeps riding the way he's riding, I can't see them not handing it over to Lipovic.
It seems to me like Roglic is a little bit checked out from the GC side of things already, but that's probably because these 2 days that we've had aren't the most fun days to be a GC rider, because you're not suited naturally to that kind of really punchy riding anyway, and you're pretty small compared to these big guys. throwing their weight around at the front. So it's not his cup of tea at the best of times. I think their plan will actually be, I'd have a feeling that Lefowitz is actually going better on the way in from the rumours I've heard within the peloton anyway. So I think plan A is actually Lefowitz, but they're going to want to keep Roglic as a threat for as long as possible. Because if he can stay even just close enough, we've seen Roglic do it before when he was on Visma, play second fiddle and actually have a big impact, because he's still not a rider that the big dogs are going to let away. That he's too dangerous to give him any rope. So if Red Bull, Bora for sure are going to want to keep him on GC for that reason.
I've been pushing this for ages. The idea, like, I think the way to beat Poggy is 2 riders. I think we might have lost Cyrus for a sec. We'll see if he comes back. But I've always sort of been pushing this idea that I think the way to beat Tadej Pogacar is what Visma Lease Bike did in, I think it was 2021 or 22, when they sort of tag teamed against Vingegaard. So we're going to truck on. Don't know whether we'll be able to get Cyrus back. Hopefully he does pop back into the stream. But until then, let's just keep going, and we're going to move on to our next section, which is the Domestique of the day. And we have already labelled the Domestique of the day, and it is whoever was doing those shifts for Primoz Roglic. Whether that ends up proving valuable or not, we're not sure. And maybe that poor bloke was actually just putting his energy into a lost cause, I guess. But the Domestique for Roglic. What name did you have for that again, Cyrus?
So it was a tough one for me to try and pick, because I had, there's so many guys that actually came into it. We had Wellens lighted up there. Actually, Matteo Trentin did a mad pull for Hershey coming into the final climbs there. And then Jorgensen and Narvaez, both at the end, were super good for their respective leaders. But I'm going to go with Jorgensen just because he was a Domestique that was a little bit on the offensive. He was following moves there, which actually put UAE under pressure. And I thought that was a good way of actually being even more useful than just constantly welding stuff back.
Yeah, especially when you got the numbers. There was a point where he went off the front with, I can't remember who it was, but the Cofidis rider. And it looked like they were even going to have a go at a little mini breakaway with about 3Ks to go. And yeah, I mean, anything to put, when you've got the numbers. I think Jonas still had one other rider with him. So yeah, I like seeing them try and mix things up. I think Visma Lease Bike has been doing some really interesting things in regards to their tactics. Sort of came out in the Giro, and it really worked well for them in there. And again, you kind of saw it in the Dauphiné, although it didn't come to play. But I think they have sort of decided that they have to shake up the method a little bit, and sort of see what happens when you play the game a little bit differently, because it's the only way that you're going to beat Poggy. And I think we both said that MVDP, first being a Domestique for Philipsen and then being a Domestique for himself.
Yeah, no, it was bloody impressive from him. And then if we move on from Domestique of the day, our second daily prize is Dickhead of the Day. And this one I picked out from the intermediate sprint. And we don't really know the full picture of this yet, and I'm really interested to see what actually went on. But the first one in the running for the prize was Jonathan Milan, because he just seemed to be having an absolute hissy fit at Biniam Gamay after Milan actually won the intermediate sprint anyway. So I don't know why he was so worried. But then he was saved by a spectator actually just jumping out in front of him on the climb. I think 2 times he got taken out by spectators on the climb with 30K to go. He didn't get taken out the first time. Just a dickhead taking a video on his phone right in the middle of the road, which we just hate to see that kind of thing. And then another spectator caused another small crash there. So early days in the tour, but I hope that's enough of a message gets sent from those videos for people to just get off the road the rest of the tour.
Totally. Just Caitlin in the chat, cheers for jumping in. And yeah, glad you think there were actually on the right track here and that we're not just talking out of our ass. It's always good to see. Yeah, look, I just as a spectator, I understand the temptation of filming things on their phone, but I'd like to put it to you because there was some absolute flop. I don't know why it's always like the larger dudes with their shirts off that decide that they're the ones that have to run next to the peloton with their phones screaming in their faces. Have you, as someone who's actually been in the situation akin to this, have you ever thought, you know what, I have gained a benefit from having someone do that, like someone running and screaming in your face as you're in the red trying to go up a climb? Does it help, or should people just piss off?
Nah, that is always annoying, having someone running next to you screaming in your face. The screaming from the side of the road genuinely makes a big difference. Having those kind of crowds on the side of the road, like experiencing it in Flanders and Roubaix last year, I always thought it was a cliche of the crowd gives you an extra 10% or whatever. I was racing in those races and just could not feel my legs in those moments because it's just sensory overload coming from everywhere. But anytime you get actually impeded, it just makes you angry. And if you're angry, you're just riding worse. You're distracted from what you're doing. It's just a pain in the ass. So like the most annoying thing is when people get in the road, and you see it already the last few days, like just riders yelling at people to get off the road. And the Tour brings the worst of it because it's people that aren't cycling fans.
Saw it
They just
today.
know that the Tour de France is this big thing.
We saw it today. I think it was Wellens that was actually gesturing and trying to tell a spectator to get out of the road. And the spectator was just filming with 1 foot into the road. And yeah, it's just stupid. And again, I've never raced these. I've been a spectator. I understand the temptation to film. But there are two things. Number one, it's so much more exciting when you just actually watch the race, especially in these point-to-point races. You've spent so much time getting there. Why would you be sitting there filming? Watch and cheer on. And the other thing is just stay off the road. It's not that hard to get a good vantage point from the side of the road. Just pay decent respect to the riders. I think you're hearing it here from we can call you a pro rider, Cyrus. Just don't. You don't need to. It drives me crazy.
Yeah, drives me crazy as well. But hopefully we just don't see as much of it in the Pyrenees and the Alps where it tends to be at its worst. And we just don't want to see the situation where it has to be taken away. So hopefully this is just a teaching moment for the whole crowds, and that kind of stuff can just be pumped out on all the Tour's feeds and all the broadcasters' feeds to just say, hey, don't do this the rest of the race. Show up, watch the race, cheer as much as you want, just stay off the road.
Well, you'd think, we've had so many opportunities for the learning experience. You'd think the Opiomi one was the one that would have done it. But anyway, I digress. But Caitlin, I think in the chat saying she hopes the gendarmes up their game. There was actually a situation where one of the gendarmes today was trying to get a spectator off the road, and in doing so stepped onto the road and almost wiped out the peloton. So I think it's easy to throw the blame at them, but when someone's on the road, to get them off the road, you then also have to enter the race space. It is a challenging thing for the gendarmes. I think the best solution is for spectators just to stay off the road so that we don't have to deal with this situation at all. So I think moving on from there, we were going to go to predictions, but I'll see. Cyrus is back. Hey, yep, still got you. So we might go to predictions. So for tomorrow, it is Valenciennes to Dunkirk, and this is flat. But is there anything here that obviously the Cat 4 climb sort of sticks out, but I wouldn't expect that to be particularly selective. Would you agree? Cyrus, I think, has gone again. Sorry again about this, guys. It's just the It's tough here in the sticks, man. We're doing the best we can with this, but I'm sure he'll come back. But if we're having a look at Valenciennes to Dunkirk, at about 147.4 kilometers, I believe we've got Montcassel, and I think it's very generous calling this a mountain. It's 2.3 kilometers long at 3.8%. I cannot see that being something that the sprinters are unable to get over. So I think this one is one for the sprinters. If Merlier and Milan can actually get to the finish, I think this one is probably going to go to one of those guys, and we may see a change in the yellow jersey. However, it is, well, actually, we won't see a change in the yellow jersey, but we may see a different sprint winner. However, it is super tough to see the Alpecin team. They're just so strong, and I'm struggling to see them getting beaten at the moment with MVDP and Caden Groves as the lead out. I think it's challenging to see anyone but Philipsen taking this one. So I will probably go with Philipsen as my prediction for tomorrow. I do have fingers crossed for Binny, especially after getting an absolute spray today. I would love to see him get one back and stomp his name on this Tour de France, but I just can't see it. He seems to not have any team around him, and that's really unfortunate. So, yeah, I'm going Philipsen. And moving on then, because we still don't have Cyrus back, we're going to go. We had a chat. One thing that we wanted to do at the end of each of these, because all of the oxygen for the Giro d'Italia women gets completely sucked out by this Tour de France. Unfortunately, that will be changing next year. And the Giro d'Italia women, I believe, will be kicking off on the last day of the Giro d'Italia men. But we did have the time trial today, and that was taken out by Marlon Reusser. With second place, Lottie Kopecky, third place, Longo Borghini, and fourth place, Van der Breggen. And we don't really have anyone that I would consider. I mean, we've got Anna Henderson in here, but none of the big names are sort of up the top there, and none of the climbers really, aside from Marlon Reusser, are there. And she is having an absolute flyer of the season. She is 12 seconds ahead of Lottie Kopecky in the first stage. And yeah, some really exciting racing there. So again, just a reminder, don't forget that while we're getting caught up in this crazy circus, yeah, how good is it to see Reusser? She's just looking so good this season, and I'm all about it. But yeah, how good is it that you know, the Tour de France starts getting a little bit stale? There are the women racing over on the Giro d'Italia, and yeah, don't forget about that. It's a huge race on the women's calendar. So I would recommend you jump over and follow Giro d'Italia Women on Instagram. If you still use Twitter in this dark day, I would recommend that you jump over and follow them on Twitter as well. Alternatively, they've got Threads and all the other channels. But yeah, make sure you're watching, even if you're just watching the highlights package on YouTube. And Cyrus, you're back.
Yeah, I am. So we're getting absolutely hammered by I won't say who we're getting hammered by, because I want to be able to leave the country safely. But my predictions. I did hear you going over your predictions there, and I wanted to give a little bit add into that. But yeah, tomorrow, good news is lots of wind. Bad news is it looks like it's going to be completely headwind for the last 40 or 50 Ks. So I think it'll be a big bunch sprint. A little bit nervous in the bunch, but I'm predicting Milan, because I think Trek have got a point to prove after going missing in the lead out the first day. So I think he'll be able to get it.
All right, so there you go. Cyrus saying Milan, I'm saying Philipsen. And yeah, with that, is there anything else that you'd like to throw in, Cyrus? Do you want to give a brief rundown of the race that you're actually racing at the moment? The reason why we're struggling through these internet challenges?
Yeah, exactly. The race we're in at the moment, and you are the MC for it, the announcer each morning, but is Tour of Magnificent Qinghai in China here. So stage 1 was today. Stage 2 is tomorrow, and we hit the real mountains. So pretty much the whole race is above 2,000 meters. Most of it's actually above 3,000 meters. So breathing through a straw already, and we're only getting higher from here on. So it's going to be a tough week from here on. But looking forward to getting stuck into some breakaways and watching the tour in the evenings to wind down after the stages. So should be good.
Tomorrow you go to 3,800 meters. Is that tomorrow? Or is that... No, that's stage 5, tomorrow. Isn't it? Stage 5 is 3,800 meters. But fortunately, the climbs aren't as steep. But yeah, tomorrow is pretty mental. I think you got 1 HC, 1 Cat 1, and 1 Cat 2 from memory on the stage profile. So tough day.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yeah. So it's at that point where we say jump over to Domestique Cycling. If you do want any news about the Giro d'Italia women, the Tour de France, or just if you want to keep up on racing in general, domestiquecycling.com is the place to do it. And it also helps support things like this that Cyrus and I are doing. And also Cyrus Monk, Train Like a Monk on Instagram. And I'm Burgess and his bike on Instagram, just doing my thing. Anything else you want to add before we close, Cyrus?
I think we'll wrap it up before I drop out again with this internet.
Yeah. Sounds good. Well, thank you, mate. Appreciate it. And yeah, best of luck tomorrow. I'll see you on the starting line. And yeah, I don't know how you prepare for a stage like tomorrow.
Beautiful.
But
Thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah. Cheers, guys. See you tomorrow.
Cheers. Thanks.